Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that I think is going to totally change the way you think about your brain. I mean, whether you're worried about memory problems, later down the road, or you're trying to boost your focus right now, or if you're just like me and super curious about what makes that gray matter tick. Well, this episode's for you. We're diving deep today into this fascinating interview with Dr. Daniel Amen, and it was on a Ritual podcast. And trust me, you are going to want to grab a notebook because this one is packed with insights.
With Dr. Amen, he is definitely a pioneer when it comes to the world of brain health. And his approach, it's really unique. He uses brain imaging technology, and it's called SPECT, to basically get a visual snapshot of what's actually going on inside our heads.
I am so hooked already. I mean,
Mm-mm.
who wouldn't want to peek inside their own brain? But before we get too far into that, I have to admit there was one statistic from this interview that just stopped me dead in my tracks. Dr. Amen says that if you live to be 85, there is a 50% chance that you will develop dementia. I mean, that's a pretty scary thought.
Yeah, it is definitely a wake-up call. And with, more and more people living longer, we're looking at potentially a huge increase in dementia cases worldwide. But the good news is, Dr. Amen, he really believes that we can significantly reduce our risk, even if dementia runs in our family.
So it's not just a foregone conclusion. There's hope.
Absolutely. There's a ton of hope. And actually, his book, Memory Rescue, it lays out a really practical roadmap to help us prevent cognitive decline. And he's got this acronym he uses called Bright Minds, which stands for the 11 risk factors that can really, mess with our brain health.
Okay, I love a good acronym.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this bright minds thing a little bit. What are some of the biggest culprits we should be aware of?
Well, the one that really jumps out, especially in today's world, is inflammation. We tend to think of inflammation as just, aches and pains in our body. But Dr. Amen explains how inflammation can really wreak havoc on our brains. It can affect our mood, our memory, and even increase our risk for serious conditions like Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow. So basically, chronic inflammation is not our friend when it comes to brain health.
Not at all. And the kind of scary thing is, so many things in our modern lifestyle really contribute to inflammation. We've got things like processed foods, lack of sleep, stress, environmental toxins. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It feels like a little bit of a losing battle then. If we're surrounded by all these inflammation triggers, can we actually do anything to protect our brains?
Well, here's the good news. We absolutely can. And that's where the power of neuroplasticity comes in. Dr. Amen is a huge believer in our brain's ability to change and heal throughout our lives.
Wait, hold on. Neuroplasticity, big word. What does it actually mean?
Okay, so think of your brain like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Neuroplasticity means that our brains are constantly adapting. They're forming new connections. And get this, they're even generating new brain cells.
New brain cells? Is that even possible?
Mm.
I thought we were born with all the brain cells we were ever going to have.
It is amazing, isn't it? And there's this specific area of the brain called the hippocampus. Think of it as the memory center, where new brain cells are being born every single day.
So even if we've been neglecting our brain health for years, like
Yeah.
let's say decades, we can still turn things around.
That's exactly what Dr. Amen's work shows. He even uses this fantastic analogy. He says that these new brain cells, they're like baby seahorses.
Okay, I'm picturing adorable little seahorses swimming around in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm liking this analogy already.
Right. And the thing is, our lifestyle choices, the things we eat, how much we sleep, how we manage stress, all of that, it's like creating the right environment for those baby seahorses to thrive and grow.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, but actively doing things to nurture our brain health. I'm starting to feel empowered here.
That's the spirit. And this is where Dr. Amen's work with brain SPECT imaging gets really interesting. It's not like your typical brain scan. It actually measures blood flow and activity in the brain, like a high-tech map, showing what's firing on all cylinders and what might need some extra support.
When I first heard about brain scans being used for mental health, I was a little skeptical. I thought, isn't that going a little overboard? Can't you just figure out what's going on by talking to someone?
Yeah, I can totally see why you would think that. But the thing is, traditional mental health diagnoses often rely on symptoms. Like, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling anxious? Dr. Amen argues that that's kind of like trying to fix a car. By just listening to the engine sputtering, you need to look under the hood to really understand what's going on.
So brain spec imaging is like popping the hood on our brains.
Exactly. And sometimes it reveals underlying issues that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on just through symptoms alone. Dr. Amen even talks about how this approach really changed his whole perspective on mental health after this really life-changing experience.
Oh, yeah.
His nephew,
Yes. Andrew's story, that was a powerful one. Can you remind our listeners what happened?
Yeah, so Andrew was only 9 years old, and he started exhibiting these really disturbing behaviors. He became aggressive, withdrawn, and he even started expressing thoughts of hurting other people.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. What did the doctors think was going on?
Well, they weren't really sure, and they were actually hesitant to do any brain imaging. But Dr. Amen, he insisted, knowing that sometimes these behavioral issues, they can have a physical root cause.
And what did the scan reveal?
Well, they found a large cyst in Andrew's brain. That was putting pressure on his temporal lobe.
Wow. So it wasn't just bad behavior. There was a real physical reason for what was happening.
Exactly. And the incredible thing is, after they did surgery to remove the cyst, Andrew was like a different kid. He smiled for the first time in a year. His aggression disappeared. And he was able to start living a normal life again.
That's incredible. It really highlights how important it is to look beyond just the symptoms and
Mhm.
consider all the factors that could be contributing to someone's mental health.
Absolutely. And this is a message that Dr. Amen has been championing throughout his career. He believes that by understanding our brains, we can not only address mental health challenges more effectively, but we can also unlock our full potential and live richer, more fulfilling lives.
I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling inspired to give my brain some extra TLC.
Me too. And the great thing is, Dr. Amen provides so many practical tips and tools that we can all use, whether or not we have access to fancy brain scans.
Okay, so let's dig into those practical tips. What are some things that people can start doing today to show their brain some love?
Well, if there's one thing you take away from this whole deep dive, it's this. Love your brain. Dr. Amen says it over and over again. And it sounds simple, but it's really profound when you think about it.
It really is. It's like we spend so much time, taking care of our bodies, going to the gym, eating healthy, but we often neglect our brains.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is, so many of the things that are good for our bodies
Mhm.
are also good for our brains. Dr. Amen calls these like the pillars of brain health.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about these pillars. What can I start doing today to build a better brain?
All right, so the first pillar is all about awareness, what he calls brain envy. It's about recognizing the incredible power of our brains and making a conscious decision to treat them with respect.
So no more all-nighters cramming for exams or binge-watching Netflix until 3 in the morning. My brain might stage a protest.
Maybe a gentle nudge to get some sleep. All right, so the second pillar focuses on minimizing those bright minds risk factors that we talked about earlier. And remember, inflammation is a big one, so cutting back on processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats can make a huge difference.
Got it. So swapping out those chips for some brain-boosting blueberries is a good move.
Definitely. And don't underestimate the power of sleep. Dr. Amen emphasizes that when we sleep, our brains are busy clearing out toxins and consolidating memories. He calls it taking out the mental trash.
That's a great visual.
Yes.
I'm never going to look at sleep the same way again. Okay, so what's that third pillar again?
Doing the good. And this is where we get to the fun stuff. Actively engaging in brain-healthy habits. Think exercise, stress management, and nurturing those all-important social connections.
So basically, all the things that make us feel good in general are also good for our brains. Sign me up. But I'm curious, are there any specific types of exercise that are particularly brain boosting?
Well, Dr. Amen is a huge advocate for what he calls coordination exercises. Things like dancing, tennis, or even just learning a new skill. That challenges your brain and body to work together.
Why those types of activities? What makes them so special for the brain?
Well, they engage the cerebellum, which is this amazing part of the brain at the back of your head. The cerebellum not only helps with coordination and balance, but it also plays a role in attention, language, and even emotional regulation. Dr. Amen calls these activities aerobic chess because they require both mental and physical agility.
Aerobic chess. I love it. So it's not just about hitting the treadmill. It's about getting our brains and bodies moving in sync.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Even simple things like taking a walk in nature, listening to music, or spending time with loved ones can have a profound impact on our brain health.
Speaking of loved ones, Dr. Amen also talks a lot about the importance of mental health in kids, right? I think a lot of parents are feeling really overwhelmed these days, especially with the added pressures of social media and technology.
You know, he actually has a whole book on this topic. It's called Raising Mentally Strong Kids. And it is full of practical advice that goes beyond just limiting screen time.
Okay. I am definitely adding that to my reading list. But can you give us a sneak peek?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of Dr. Amen's key principles for raising mentally strong kids?
Well, one of the most important things is modeling healthy behavior ourselves.
Hmm.
If we want our kids to have a healthy relationship with technology, we need to examine our own screen time habits.
That is so true. It's hard to tell our kids to put down their phones
Mm.
when we're constantly glued to ours.
Right. And it's not just about technology, it's about modeling healthy coping mechanisms for stress, managing our emotions effectively, and showing our kids that it's okay to ask for help when they're struggling.
So it's about creating a culture of mental wellness in our families,
Mm.
not just focusing on, restricting certain behaviors.
Exactly. Dr. Amen emphasizes the importance of fostering strong connections with our kids, spending quality time together, listening to their concerns, and making them feel seen and heard.
And he has that great analogy about the penguin trainers.
Yeah?
Yes. He talks about how penguin trainers, they focus on rewarding positive behavior rather than punishing negative behavior. It's so much more effective in shaping long-term habits.
It makes you think about how we often react to our kids, doesn't it? We tend to focus on the things they're doing wrong. But what if we flipped that script and started noticing and praising all the good things they do?
It's a game changer. And it's not just about praising them. It's about really seeing them, understanding their unique strengths and challenges, and helping them develop the skills they need to navigate the world with confidence and resilience.
It sounds like Dr. Amen's approach is all about empowering kids to take ownership of their mental health rather than just telling them what to do.
Exactly. He even have this brilliant exercise called special time, where you spend 20 minutes a day with your child doing an activity that they choose with no commands, questions, or directions from you. It's all about being present with them, letting them lead, and strengthening that parent-child bond. Wow, I love that. It's such a simple yet profound way to show our kids that we value their time and their interests. Okay, I'm feeling so inspired right now to be more intentional about my own brain health and to create a more mentally healthy environment for my family. But I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed. There's so much to think about.
I hear you. It can feel like a lot, especially when we're bombarded with information from all sides. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even small changes can make a big difference.
And so where do we start? What are some baby steps we can take to get on the right track?
Well, one of the simplest things you can do is start your day with intention. Dr. Amen suggests waking up and saying something positive out loud, like, today's going to be a great day.
I actually do something similar. I try to start each day with a few minutes of gratitude journaling. It really helps set the tone.
That's awesome. It's all about priming your brain for positivity. And throughout the day, Dr. Amen recommends playing what he calls the good for your brain game.
Ooh. Tell me more about this game. It sounds intriguing.
It's super simple. Before you eat something, drink something, or engage in any activity, just ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? It's a quick way to bring more mindfulness to your choices.
So like hitting the snooze button for the 10th time might not be the best brain move.
Maybe not. And before bed, Dr. Amen suggests doing a wet well review instead of dwelling on the negatives. Take a few minutes to reflect on all the good things that happened during the day. Even small wins count.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the things that go wrong. But training our brains to focus on the positive can make a huge difference.
It really can. And here's another powerful technique that Dr. Amen talks about. It's called naming your mind.
Naming your mind. Okay, you're going to have to explain this one.
So it's about creating a little distance between you and your thoughts. Like imagine your mind is kind of like a mischievous puppy that sometimes gets into trouble.
I have 2 dogs, so I can definitely relate to that.
Right, so instead of getting swept away by every thought and emotion, you can simply observe it and say something like, oh, there's Sparky being anxious again.
That's brilliant. It kind of takes the power away from those negative thoughts
Hmm.
and helps you see them more objectively.
Exactly. It's a way to become more mindful and less reactive to the constant chatter in our heads.
You know, one thing that really stuck with me from the interview was Dr. Amen's belief that it's never too late to start taking care of our brains. It doesn't matter our age or what choices we've made in the past. There's always hope.
Absolutely. He shares this incredible story about a former MLB player named Troy Glaus who had been experiencing a lot of cognitive issues, and after just a few months of following Dr. Amen's program, he saw significant improvements in his memory, focus, and overall brain function.
That is so encouraging. It's like a reminder that our brains are incredibly resilient and adaptable. We just need to give them the right tools and support.
And that's the beauty of Dr. Amen's work. He's not just talking about treating symptoms. He's about empowering people to optimize their brain health and live their best lives.
Oh, I don't know about you, but I'm walking away from this deep dive feeling informed, inspired,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit in awe of the amazing power of our brains.
Me too. It's been a privilege to explore this topic with you and our listeners.
And if you're feeling as fired up about brain health as we are, we encourage you to check out Dr. Amen's work and start incorporating some of these simple but powerful tips into your daily life. Trust us, your brain will thank you for it.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So start today. What one thing can you do to show your brain a little extra love?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.